Rebbe uplifted everything, set the tone for the whole thing. It was so different when the Rebbe spoke about the Ava and the kids and the love that Rebbe spoke with the kids. Just how every yid and every kid is precious, and for sure we did this, and for sure you could do this, and the kids. And in school it was like, why weren't you here? And what were you there? It was a little different. I'm not saying it. The school there were very good teachers, and it's Chabad gelernt and everything, but still the whole concept of Asay Tev rather than Surmid or like somewhat focusing on the possibilities and the good. It was like a sort of a contrast. Like they were uplifted. It was unbelievable.
I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Der Herr, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Right now, we're at the very end of our annual campaign. If this podcast or anything that Der Herr provides to you and your family means something to you, and you would like it to continue, please consider joining this campaign. You can donate today at derhercampaign.com. That's DERHER campaign.com. Thank you for considering it. And now let's continue with this week's episode of Among Chassidim. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Berel Levertov. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, Aleichem Shalom.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Okay, so I happened to be reading just the other day, before we get into you yourself, like you and like many, there's roots from where we come from. I happened to be reading a whole write-up about Russia and about the Chassid Rebbe Poltaver, and one of the things I read was various memories and recollections that your father, Reb Moshe Levertov, had. So maybe we'll start talking about your parents and Reb Moshe Levertov. And I know there's a lot of important things that he was involved with when he was young, but especially in the later years, Ezras Achim and different things like that. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about him.
So my father, Reb Moshe Levertov, Alav Shalom, came from a family of Chassidim. His grandfather was a Chassid of the Rebbe Marash, and they came from Kremenchuk. And his father learned in Lubavitch. His father, who I'm named after, Berel Kabbalaka. It was known as Berel Kabbalaka because he probably stayed in Kabbalak for like 25 minutes or something. And I passed through Kabbalak, so they got his name of Kabbalaka. Berel Levertov, he was in Lubavitch. He learned in yeshiva in Lubavitch. He was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh. He was one of the Chassidim of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Lived in Moscow. And major Mesiras Nefesh, and he actually passed away. He was killed by the Russians in the Russian gulags in 1947 when they escaped. Everybody escaped, and he couldn't make it. My father came out of Russia in 1946, Tafshin Vav, went to Paris, and came to Crown Heights. That allowed him to come to Crown Heights in Tafshin Yud. Shmini Atzeres Tafshin Yud, the Rebbe asks about if he arrived yet.
Shmini Atzeres Tafshin Yud. You're talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe.
I'm sorry. Shmini Atzeres Tafshin Yud Aleph.
Okay.
Shmini Atzeres Tafshin Aleph, the Rebbe asks about the Farbrengen if he arrived yet. Came with 5 other Russische, saying gekommen, from France, and he was one of the Bachrim who were there before Yud Shvat Tafshin Aleph. So in between Tafshin Yud Tafshin Aleph, he was one of the Bachrim who wrote Ksabes Kashas and so on from the young Bachrim who were there before Yud Shvat Tafshin Yud Aleph.
He wrote things then that year, right?
He recorded a lot of things, a lot of stories, and a lot of sichos, and a lot of Yimei Bereishis is based on his writings.
So a lot of the history we know from that period is from your father's writings.
Yes. He also wrote letters to Rabbi Berel Levertov and others who were still in France or in England. And he wrote what's Tutzach Tafshin Yud, Tafshin Aleph. And we still have those ksavim that he wrote down and the notes that he took. He kept writing even like to later years. He wrote down Fabrengens. He would sit by Fabrengen sometimes, and like even in the mems, he would write down Nekudis of the Fabrengen just to remember it as well. My mother came from a non-Lubavitch family, and her brother, her name is Maskal, and there's a Maskal family. Her brother came to Lubavitch, and then he brought the whole family in, and she had early Kiruvim from the Rebbe when she was dating, and earlier she had a lot of Yechidus. A girl coming in from Beis Yaakov, very involved in Chassidus, and she would learn a lot of Chassidus, and she would also memorize some of the Fabrengens, and very involved in the early years.
So they got married in New York. Your father's learning in 770 for a few years, and then they got married here.
So my father was a Alter Bacha Shliach in Pittsburgh in Tafshir Gimel. He went out there. He was a mashpia. There's a letter to the Rebbe to Reb Shalom Peisner. Why does Moshe Levertov have to tell me that you're not well? So he went there as a bacher, and then he came back from Pittsburgh, and they got married. And the Rebbe was Masada Kedushin. The Rebbe was Masada Kedushin. He went back to Pittsburgh to be a mashpia, and then he came back to New York. Okay,
so he's back in New York. So I understand that I think he did diamonds, right? Is that correct?
That's good. Very good. He did. He was a jeweler at that time. I know Mrs. Garelik says that he was involved in Gershom Garelik's shidduch, and he convinced him because they weren't living in Pittsburgh, and so that was a Pittsburgh time. And then he has letters from the Rebbe then, and he comes back to New York, and they didn't have children for some time, but if the bracha from the Rebbe, the doctor said actually that they couldn't have any children, and with the bracha of the Rebbe, my mother actually had an appendix removed, and the Rebbe said, "Epis nicht gut is a ruis, so epis gut reinkommen." Something bad came out, so something good should come in, and then they had my older brother Yisroel Levertov. He worked in a lot of other Chassidim, a lot of other Jews. He worked in diamonds, and she was a teacher, preschool teacher. She always loved children, and she always spoke to the children and did crafts with the children. She was very artsy. And eventually, so living in Crown Heights, they moved to Crown Heights in the 60s, in Tafshin Chaf Hey, and I was born in Tafshin Lamed. And it was a really rough time, Crown Heights, when everybody moved out. All the Jews moved out of Crown Heights, and it was crime-ridden and very challenging. We lived on Lefferts Avenue, which was technically even out of Crown Heights. It's another zip code. It's a 11203, not 11213. And there were like 3-4 families on the block, and it was pretty challenging to go from Lefferts Avenue to Empire. You have to go through in every street, whether it's Troy, Albany, Kingston, Brooklyn. There's always big apartment buildings, and there's people loitering there, and it was extremely dangerous and scary. And it wasn't just phobia like scary, it was actually scary. You had a lot of break-ins. You couldn't leave anything outside. You had to check right and left before you walked out of the house. Even Shvedetzeit, and it was difficult times. But we managed. We used to go to 770, and it was an idea of Chizuk Ashchuna. The Rebbe spoke a lot about keeping all the shuls open. So my father was involved with the shul, and he made sure the minyanim kept going. And we grew up on Lefferts Avenue shul with the mikvah, but it was pretty challenging those years.
People. I don't know if everyone realizes that there are people that, if by choice, they probably would have davened in 770 on Shabbos, but since the Rebbe was promoting this idea of the being mechazik, the shchuna, they davened in the shtibelach to keep them going. They were existing shtibelach. They were from before, right? And Lubavitchers are the ones that kept it going.
The Rebbe wanted very strong at the all the shuls should stay open, and they push out to keep Inyanim there. I remember they still had like different nuschais, sidurim, and sometimes they would add a few things of chais before. But might have. I remember growing up, there was like a one till the last guy left or passed away. They kept saying there's the bracha that in Yisroel or something that we kept saying in might have at the end before Shemoneh Esrei. We used to go for Tkiyas, all the shuls would come to 770, like a break, and also, of course, for Simchas Torah, after all the shuls finished Hakafas, they would go to 770. But otherwise, we try to keep the shul going. But as a youngster, I would go to 770 a lot, and especially as a bacher, once I was able to walk and not be afraid to walk the streets of Crown Heights after 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. So let me ask you two questions about one about your father and one about your mother.
Okay.
So maybe we'll start with your father. So I know that at a certain point, he became very involved in Ezras Achim, which was doing secret missions for the Yidden in Russia. Maybe you can elaborate on what it is, what it was, when did it start, and what was his involvement in it.
So in Tafshin Chav Daled, Reb Levertov came out of Russia, and he told them that there's a lot of Chassidim stuck in Russia still. My grandmother was actually still stuck in Russia. Her husband was killed, but she was still stuck. And he told them that there's a possibility, there's ability, the Russians are allowing for people to send packages to their family. Pasilkas, it would be called.
1 second. So your father's mother was in Russia the whole time?
Was in Russia the whole time. She came out in Tafshin Lamed, Tafshin Lamed.
Wow, okay.
She came out. So with her daughters, my father's sisters. So my father has one brother, Rabbi Berel Levertov alav shalom. He's the father of all the other Levertovs, and that's it. The two Levertovs. The other ones are sisters, and she was still stuck in Russia. And Rebbe Levertov came out and told Chassidim, like, there's a possibility of sending packages, pasilkas, and what they could do with the packages is, first of all, they could have it for themselves. Secondly, they could sell them in the black market. So if you get a fur coat, it's very valuable, or jeans, or other small things. But it had to come from family. So they created this whole. So Rebbe Levertov founded this Ezras Achim, or he urged at least Chassidim to found Ezras Achim. And my father was one of the founders, Reb Gedalia Korf, and there was a Spalter involved. There's others who built this this organization called Lishkas Ezras Achim. It was, of course, very secret, and it took place. It was run from underground, literally from my basement, from our basement in our house, literally underground. And they started sending packages, and I still have the bills of laden, the shipping bills, where I think it's called Kaufman or something. So what they would do is they would create names that sounded similar to the names of the people they're sending to. They had up a list of names, and they would create as if they're cousins and addresses, and they would package them and send them things. Some things got there, some things didn't get there. Come moving, but it helped them a lot because they were able to sell things on the black market. So as time went on, they were sending more and more packages. That's where it started. Slowly, and Rabbi Berel Levi was the main one who traveled a lot to Russia on his own, and he would give reports to Ezras Achim.
He would go there for kashrus purposes. That was his main objective, right?
I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. I never figured out why he would go a lot. He would travel a lot. He was the main guy. So he had videos and he had letters. He was the main contact.
Right. I mean, I thought that the way I understood it is that he had a reason to go for kashrus purposes, and that's why he got all involved with the Yiddishkeit operations. But I'm wrong. I don't know.
To me, it sounded like he would go intentionally, maybe use that as an excuse, but he definitely was the main person of the connection, and he had many conversations with my father and others. He was the main person who traveled, and then they started sending him packages and started sending him. They would get packages, send Tashmish Kedusha, like Svarim, Tefillin, Mezuzahs, and everything. They would send with different people who were traveling. Some people were tourists, some people were from Israel or something, and diplomats. and it started scaling up the operation more and more. I have a letter from someone who was going from, I have a duch, a report from somebody from going from the Federation of Connecticut or something. And they said they turned to all the different organizations asking them what they could, they're going to Russia, they're having a trip, could they bring anything? And maybe people said that we don't know what to send, we don't know. The minute they called my father, within like 2 hours or 4 hours, I had 2 massive suitcases with names and addresses to go and distribute. So the Babbage has it all. So that's, they started sending people, they started sending shluchim as well. And there was a phone number. They had, as a Sachem had a phone. It was registered under my father's name. And there was an extension that was in my house as well, upstairs. And I remember getting phone calls in the middle of the night because they would be able to call. In order to reserve a call, you had to call weeks in advance, like to make an international call. And of course, the reason was because they always had to have an operator listening to the whole conversation. So it was limited. So they had to have
calls from Russia.
From Russia. Calls from Russia would take a couple of weeks. And so finally we'd get phone calls. And of course they would say the Zayda said this and the Zayda said that. And
the Zayda referring to the Rebbe.
The Rebbe. They would ask questions. They would get answers about
I was going to ask you, do you know what the Rebbe's involvement was in this operation?
The Rebbe was very involved, especially with reports from Berel Levi. My father gave a lot of reports to the Rebbe, Duchas. The Rebbe was limiting his direct involvement. It was dangerous, Pasha. Anybody who had any connection with the Rebbe was dangerous. So they had they had answers, but it was, I haven't seen that many like clear directives because the Rebbe was very careful not to be involved. At Kedei Kach, that even in 1990s when it was already open, the Rebbe, and they had, as a Sachem had a Malav Malka, the Rebbe forbade them to show a video. Everybody was already talking about Russia. Russia's open, and they wanted to show a video, but the Malav Malka, the Rebbe didn't allow it. There was the opinion that it may still go back. At Kedei Kach, that if you look at the Sefer Shluchim, all the people who are Moscow are listed as a Sachem, Brooklyn. And the word as a Sachem wasn't like it wasn't Lubavitch, of course. That would be dangerous. It was Ezras Achim or something, like very vague of what they did. So it was hard. They had to raise money, they had to send money, and they had to send people. And my father was, but they couldn't really say what they were doing. It was limited what they could say they were doing. My father was the main program director. The other people were fundraising. My father, those who went, told me that my father was the one who was really, really making decisions. He was involved in it quite a bit. At a certain point, he gave up. In Tafshin Membeis in 1982, he gave up. First, he was, jewelry. I was saying he gave up that, and then he was working Kahas for a little bit. I helped move Kahas into its new space where it is today. It used to be upstairs 788. There used to be a Kahas showroom, room 214 or something, 784, and it's the same place where the Rebbe went up for Nachshon's, Baruch Nachshon's display art exhibit. That's where the Kahas was. And then in Tafshin Mem, it moved over to the current space. And I helped my father organize it and set it up. And I used to hang out a lot at Kahas. And then he asked the Rebbe if he should go full-time into Ezras Achim. It was time to get more involved, more time, because the Rebbe said he should go. And that's when they started sending more and more shluchim and more younger light couples would go.
Right. So all these couples that went, they're all sent by Ezras Achim, throughout the mems and those years. Over the past few months, I've been receiving constant feedback regarding Among Chassidim podcast. Each episode brings a different guest and hits home differently for a different person. Honestly, all of the feedback gives myself and the entire team at Der Her the kayach to continue. Right now, we're at the very end of our annual campaign. If this podcast or anything that Der Her provides to you and your family means something to you, and you would like it to continue, please consider joining this campaign. Every donation of $36 and above enters you into a raffle. If you'll be hearing this podcast at a later point, we will keep the website open so that you have the opportunity to participate. Tonight, we will be holding our final raffle drawing. If the Her or Among Chassidim means something to you, please consider helping us continue this work. You can donate today at derhercampaign.com. That's DERHER campaign.com. Thank you for considering it. And now let's continue with this week's episode of Among Chassidim.
We all said Ezras Achim, and we packed them. We packed them up suitcases, and it was an incredible operation because you couldn't send tzitzis, but they needed tzitzis. So they sent them, they got a hold of wool material, like a whole bunch of sheets, and they folded over, and they said it's like tablecloths. And then we got tzitzis in a ball of yarn, just one big ball, and we put like a crochet needle in it, and it was for crocheting. And I remember we had to send ink for Sefer Torahs to fix Sefer Torahs. So we used to get shoe polish and empty out the shoe polish into things. We used to have shoe polish in our house. We used to have shoe polish in a cup because they had to empty it out and fill it up with yoy.
So you need to keep the shoe polish. You can't throw it out.
So we used to have shoe polish. Then when you had to have svarim, you couldn't just send svarim. You had to use it. You're using it for your own. So you used to take sidurim, and sometimes we traded it out for used sidurim. But otherwise, we made it used. We had to put some coffee on it, and make it look like it was used, or break it a little bit, to tear a little bit. You couldn't really hide anything because that was much worse. If you hid something and they found it, it means you were trying to hide it. So you can't hide anything, but it was used. And then I remember a story. I forgot who it was with, but he brought a chalif. You had to bring a chalif for shchita. So when it came to the border, of course, they would open them up and they would start interrogating them and asking, what's this for? Take it out. And it was a whole process of what the border agents would take. Sometimes they would just schlep away stomach because they wanted it. Sometimes they asked, and sometimes the shluchim would put things back into the suitcase. It was a whole process. What did they take? How much they passed by? Like, I think it was with the label Rabbi Levertov Shapiro. He went with his wife, and they had 4 pairs of tefillin. And the agent at the place said, "Oh, these 2 are for you, and these 2 are for you." He's referring to his wife. So they understood that the wife also needed 2 pairs of tefillin. They used to leave, of course, the tefillin over there. And they would come back with old ones. And a lot of times they wrote down exactly what they took, and they would be afraid to leave anything. It was nerve-wracking in every single step of the way. Rabbi Yisroel Darren went. He had major stories as well. So one time they came to the border, and they saw the chalif, and they asked him, "What do you need a chalif for?" He says, "It's to cut my salami. You see, I have salami." So they ask him, "Well, but what do you need such a long one?" He says, "Because I cut the salami the long way, not the." So my mother was very involved in it, and my mother created a way. She figured out a way how to send meat, and she got a canning machine, something I never saw. It's a little machine that you put meat. So she cooked meat, put it into cans, and sealed it, and that's what they had. They would take it; it would last a long time. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't work out. But it was her project herself. Voluntarily, she made meat for the Yidden in Russia and for the Shluchim as well. And Rabbi Berel Levertov tells a story that one of the times he went, they were packing it up, and my mother came down and said, they came to the basement, and that's where everything was happening. She came with a few candies. She said, "You're going to kids, you're going to be some kids, give them candies." And the men said, what's up stopping candies? Who needs candies? There's more important things to put in there. Tashmish Kedusha, what do you need candies? Okay, so the candies in the go. They left. Anyways, he came to the border, and he started taking out his stuff. And they find a pushka. And they ask, "What is this?" He says, "Every day I give charity. I want to put pushka." He says, "Fine." And he started shaking the pushka. And he said, "What's in there?" And he got all scared because you're not allowed to bring in any money. And not hiding money. So they opened it up, and it was the candies. So the mother, he got a good laugh. And the mother snuck in the candies anyways. Because those days they weren't so makbid about the weight, or we paid extra for weight. They didn't care. Like, it was heavy suitcases. Of course, he paid overweight, whatever it was, it didn't matter. So it wasn't the amount of pace, the weight, it was about the spaces. So she cared about the chocolates for the kids or the candies for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So she got involved with that. There was somebody who came out of Russia who told me that my father, there was somebody who had to go through some operation and they needed to have the equipment, like a kit, like for a knife and scissors and other things, a whole kit. And that's what they needed in Russia. They couldn't get it. So my father got no one was able to help. Okay, forget it. You can't find it. My father went around, called different hospitals, and finally got a hold of a doctor, and finally got this kit. And he took it apart, and he sent bit by bit with different shluchim. And over there on the other side, they put it together, and they made this whole kit, and they were able to do this operation. And Pashat saved his life.
Wow. So it's like all the needs. It's the kedusha needs, it's physical needs, whatever the Yidden in Russia needed.
Ruchnius and Gashmius and very, very involved. And that's where Berel Levertov came and got involved. He went as a bacher, and then after he came back, he realized that the bachrim are going, they're not really continuing the connection, and they're chosen by these younger light or people who run the organization don't really know the bachrim. So he got involved and started volunteering. And he said, my father gave him a desk, and he said, here's a desk and a phone call. Make as much as you want. Call Russia. Then it was starting to get a little open. It was 89 already, or Tafshinun to 89, and it was at least $1 a minute, at least, maybe even more to call. But my father said, don't worry, just make any phone call you want to Russia and organize. And he took it to Karani, him with Ezras Achim to Yena Prus. They got involved and they really revamped it. He expanded and got more bachrim involved, made a whole system, and it expanded operations.
So basically, you're saying that the whole Chabad in Russia was basically when it was not safe to run it there and it was being operated from New York, because basically Ezras Achim was doing it, and then until Lubavitch became established in Russia itself.
Absolutely, Ezras Achim is a main part of Lubavitch in Russia. It's the foundation of Lubavitch in Russia. The reason that we were able to operate once it opened up is because we were there the whole time. They had connections. They had a whole network of people, and they would push it, sending stuff and money and stuff to sell in the black market, cameras and ruchnius and gashmis. The point was that they would refuse nix. Anybody who applied for a visa to leave Russia, especially to Eretz Yisroel, they would immediately lose their job. So they had to have a parnasa. They had to be in the black market. So they would go there. They would pose as tourists and go do tourist things, and they would take pictures, bring cameras, expensive cameras. I remember those cameras, and they would leave it there, and the people there would sell it. I know Kahas went also. There was a book fair, Jewish book fair or something, and they would bring Sfarim there, and people would steal it, Kaviyachal, from them. They knew already what they're going to do. Very, very dangerous times. And what's interesting, one of the reports that I read in 1984, they write that we imagine that things got slowly opened up. It was hard, and it got slowly opened up. Finally, it opened up in 1990. The truth is, it wasn't that way. In 1984, there was two successive people who running Russia, the presidents of Russia, who died, and they were there for a short time. And one of them, the report writes that it's been terrible. The people are reporting that the arrests have been made. More people are being interrogated and arrested, and they're clamping down on all the Yiddishkeit more than before. So it first got worse before it got better.
Right. And I think people's narrative is that, like, in the 30s and the 40s, 50s, it was terrible, and then they forgot about the Yiddishkeit. You're saying that in those tkufas itself, there was ups and downs.
There was ups and downs, and it was the same year. If I remember correctly, it's the same year. Tafshim Mem Dal, Tafshim Mem Gimel. The Rebbe spoke about Machane Starim in Petersburg. The Tzemach Tzedek would speak on Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, and would mention different ministers in Petersburg who should remain and who should not remain, and that's what happened to them. And the Rebbe mentioned just this story on Rosh Hashanah, and actually the guys who were in charge, the Peget, died, and those were terrible people. It was actually getting worse. And I heard that when Professor Yirmiya Branover met with Gorbachev asked him, "Who is this rabbi who said that it's going to get that it's going to it's going to open?" Because I myself wasn't planning to open it. I don't know what happened. He says somehow I was motivated to do it. So it wasn't like it was a plan. He was actually going to plan to make it worse, Gorbachev, and the pale Nisim and the flies. So it's clearly the Rebbe's working over here in this thing.
Right.
So that's as the Tkufa Ezras Achim was amazing. Tkufa, again, answers and connections, reports to the Rebbe all the time. And then when it opened up, there were major containers were going. The Schmerlings were involved with containers from Switzerland, and the Ronald Lauder and Israel Singer and Bronfman, and there was time to send matzahs, and hundreds of thousands of dollars are going through, like, to really start pumping in and rebuilding Yiddishkeit in Russia once it opened up. You remember Rabbi Kogan came in Tafshin Memvav, and he stayed at my house. He was a tzaddik of Leningrad because we knew him. My father took care of him when he was in Russia. That was their connection to the Rebbe. So that was an amazing tkufa of really, really helping and finding out and debriefing and connecting to watching all these Hasidim go. I remember that, if I remember correctly, when he used to put down mashke on Shabbos to take, and everybody, so with the Fabrengens, at first they would. So anyways, by the Fabrengens, the Rebbe would give mashke from the Fabrengen, mix from his becher into the mashke. If anybody was doing a pola that week, so, and they would have to announce what they're doing. But when the shluchim went to Russia, they would take, but they wouldn't announce. You could have talking about, they shouldn't say what they're doing.
Right. Okay. So, and these things have been documented. I mean, the Herr has written an article about the Ezras Achim, and we actually had one about, you mentioned B'Shir Kogan, we had one about him, but there's a lot more that, I don't know what, a lot of these things, it sounds like it weren't documented, so it's, it's hard to collect, but it's a lot of fascinating anecdotes that should be recorded.
Yes. One of the fascinating things, I had one of the duchas of one of the shluchim, and I sent it to him, and he says, I never kept a copy because it was special dangerous. We weren't allowed to keep a copy. I sent it to the Rebbe, and that was the only copy. So they, as a Sachem, kept a copy, I guess. But classified stuff. Yeah. There's no question that they were listening into the telephones, and they were watching.
Right. Okay. So I want to ask you about your mother. So yes. One of the things your mother is famous for, she was the famous mikvah lady in Crown Heights, and because of that, the Rebbe used the mikvah that the Rebbe used was the mikvah Nashim in Crown Heights, and I understand she would prepare the mikvah for the Rebbe, and there was involvement. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was something that was very amazing. And she started working there in Tafshin Mem Gimel. That's the mikvah in Union and Albany. And of course, the women used the mikvah at night. So the Rebbe would use the mikvah before he went to the oil every time. And every single time before the Rebbe went to the mikvah, there would be a phone call. Rabbi Groner or Rabbi Klein would call and ask, as the Rebbe gebeten, to make a nutz in the mikvah morgen. So we would know the night before if the Rebbe is going to the oil. So there was the kavudika times. The Rebbe would go Tesvav of the month and Erev Chodesh, and then other Yom the Pagers that were very, very known. Then it started becoming every Sunday, and then it moved to Monday. It was kavua. I remember getting a phone call after Farbrengen. The Rebbe gave Rebbe Farbrengen, and after Farbrengen, like 11, 12 o'clock at night, a phone call came in asking if the Rebbe could use the mikveh tomorrow. When we already knew for sure that Rebbe was going to use the mikveh. So that was an amazing, again, the courtesy that every single time that Rebbe made sure that ask if he could ask if he could use the mikveh.
And the night before.
The night before. Sometimes the Rebbe wanted to go to the oil right away. So it was that day. Now, the way they did the mikveh there was they would empty out the water and they would put in fresh city water every single day. So it wasn't like filtered the same water, but it was new water. So until you put it in, until it heats up and so on, it takes time. So sometimes they would get a phone call like, the Rebbe gebeten sie, we can't come in mikveh. So sometimes it was mamash a rush. You would have to rush to the mikveh and see and put everything together, set it up, clean it up. You know, the women would use it the night before, so it wasn't always ready. And once or twice, there was something wrong with the city plumbing, and the water was coming in was very dirty. And she tried so hard to get it clean, and finally she said, "I'm sorry, but the water is not ready." So they never went to kind of mikveh. A few times that I went
7-Eleven, Eastern Parkway.
7-Eleven is the park. Kind of mikveh. So a few times it was something was wrong with it. It was black water was coming in for whatever reason, and it wasn't enough time to.
So even in the later years, it happened a few times that the Rebbe went to the Karastim mikveh.
Yes. Later in the later years, talking about like in the Nun and Aleph, like really late. I mean, and Pashut, it was not possible. But at that time, they were doing construction in the mikveh. That was a famous saga of the construction of the mikveh, which took incredibly long time, and there was Mitzayah, the Rebbe did a lot of tsar that it wasn't happening, and the Rebbe Kiyadua sold 770 in order to raise money for the mikveh. If I remember correctly, it was for $10,000. I don't know, but I remember going down. I was working in Americas, and I saw I went down to look at the registry of the deeds, and it actually says a certain time it was sold, and it was bought back in the end. The 770 itself, if I remember correctly, it's under Americas and the Chinuch.
The 770.
I believe so. In any case,
I think it's under Agudas of Chabad.
I'm sorry, 770 is under Agudas of Chabad, but 788 and 784 is Americas. Yeah, you're right. So the mikveh. So my mother would when the Rebbe went to the mikveh, the Rebbe went to the oil. The Rebbe went to the mikveh first, and like I said, there was a major construction going on, and the Rebbe was very bothered by the lack of movement. There was 3 baitis that were being put together. It was the original one, and then they were expanding 2 more, and the Rebbe screamed for Brengen, and it was very, very heartbreaking to see. It was just going very, very slow for whatever reason. And finally, they opened the other one, and it had cracks and had leaks, and had to start again, and it was really, really challenging. But my mother, there was no specific time that I went to the mikveh, so my mother would go there. It was after 10 o'clock, after Kriyas Otero, after davening. From then till that I went to the mikveh, anywhere in between, let's say 10:30 until 2, 3, 4 o'clock. There was no specific time, and she would spend a lot of time there, especially waiting. There was no. She couldn't just sit and watch. She was doing things she had to do, and she would daven, and she would check every few minutes to see if the Rebbe was coming. And the Rebbe would come. Rabbi Klein would drive the Rebbe from Eastern Parkway, come down Albany, and usually turn into Union Street backwards, the wrong way.
You would drive in straight, the wrong way.
The wrong way.
Yeah.
Right, straight, and turn out, and then I would come up the stairs from the front upstairs. So there was 1 or 2 times that Rebbe came up, and she hadn't, she walked away. She was doing something, and the Rebbe had to, either be Rabbi Klein himself. Rabbi Klein ran up and rang the bell. One time the Rebbe rang the bell himself because it wasn't open yet. She didn't want to keep it open, but she waited. Al Kopanim, the Rebbe would come in, and the Rebbe would give first it was $10, and then it was $20, and my mother would leave the building, and
So the Rebbe would pay the fee every time.
Every single time, $10 or $20.
In a pushka, like in a.
Put it down on a chair. They would put it down on a chair. And there's one time that, so if my mother couldn't do it for whatever reason, my father sometimes did it. And a few times, my father actually had something to ask about Russia, so he opened the mikveh, and he asked the Rebbe something about a question he had about Russia as well. There was one time, and then there was construction. Sometimes they went from the side from Albany Avenue. So I remember it was a Lag Ba'omer. My mother asked me that if I could hold the door, if I could open the door downstairs for the Rebbe to come in from Albany, because there was upstairs and downstairs, and she wanted to stand upstairs and just need someone to open the door downstairs. I looked at it. I was planning to, when the Rebbe came, to open the door and walk away. What am I supposed to be? I wasn't planning to be there. This is like Ba'omer after a parade. I think it was Tavshim Zayin, and I was planning to open the door and just walk away. And so I see the Rebbe's car. The people are walking down Albany Avenue all the way down to the park down on Troy. And then the Rebbe's car pulls up to Albany Avenue, and I see the Rebbe's coming out. So I immediately open the door and start walking away. All of a sudden, the door starts closing, and I realize there's a spring. There's a spring. I mean, the door's going to shut. I can't just leave it. So I'm standing over there. I was like mortified because I wasn't planning, but I held the door open. It was a siyah that I'll never forget. I held the door open for the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, Yasher Koyach, and I went inside. And another time, my parents wanted to leave. It was in the summer. They wanted to leave for the day, and they couldn't get anybody else, the other mikvah ladies, to open up. So they asked me if I could open. I said, I'm not really, I don't feel comfortable opening the mikvah for the Rebbe. But they said, if you don't open, then we can't go on this trip. So I said, you know what? Okay, I'll do it for them. So I stood there I stood there and I held the door open for the Rebbe. It was shreklech to watch. I mean, not shreklech, but just to watch the Rebbe come up the stairs. You're standing, and the Rebbe is walking slowly up the stairs, and I'm opening the door. And being in the building yourself with the Rebbe, as he goes to the mikveh, very powerful moment. And when the Rebbe left, the Rebbe said, "Guten Tag." I didn't know what to say. What do you say when the Rebbe tells you Guten Tag?
Right.
They said, I mean, like, whatever. Of course, I went to the mikveh right after that. After that, I went to Tevil, so that was the real schus. I was able to do it. And one time, I noticed that
Among Chassidim is brought to you by Chassidische Der Herr. We live in a chaotic world, a world where for us Chassidim is a seinu, lei ra'inu. We do not have the ability to hear and see the Rebbe on a daily basis. Yet we know that the Rebbe is very much with us, and the Chassidus Chabad is alive and thriving more than ever before. One needs to only tap into it. Chassidische Der Herr provides you and your family with the tools necessary to tap into all of this. Whether it's the monthly magazine, the way it all began, whether it's Der Herr books, Der Herr online content, and so much more. Men, women, and children throughout the world benefit and use these tools on a daily basis. Whether it's children enjoying the children's magazine that comes along with the regular Der Herr, or enjoying the children's podcast, whether it's Bachrim in yeshivas receiving the Der Herr, whether it's girls in high schools enjoying Der Herr club in their local high school. People all over the world and from all walks of life enjoy and utilize these tools and take advantage of it. If you're not already subscribed to Der Herr monthly magazine, do so today at derher.org. That's derher.org. Der Herr is a dynamic organization which is committed to continue providing these tools, grow on a constant basis, and do all that we can to help this effort. Baruch Hashem, it takes a lot of resources and finances to make this all happen. You can be part of Der Herr through your financial support as well, through visiting our website derher.org or through contacting us to setting up a meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
That this chair that I was using is not a good chair. And those days, there was a gesund, after the Rebbe had the Meister with the foot in Tashim and Vav, so people were more sensitive about things. So I asked, why can we get a better chair? So we tried to figure out what kind of chair, whatever. Finally, they brought from 770 one of the red chairs. Well, the Rebbe's nice red chairs, and they brought it to the mikveh. And that's what the Rebbe used after that. And then they kept it there, and it's still there. And it's like the women, it's a schus that the Rebbe's chair is sitting, it's a red chair in the middle of the mikveh. After construction, they finally got the last third boyd, the mikveh ready, and it was, and they wanted the Rebbe to use it. The Rebbe used it, and after the Rebbe gave a message as "Fara frui, was hat ze mit the heart is schwer to ruf gehen die Treppe." That if a woman who has heart sensitivities, heart problems, it may be hard to go up to the steps. So because that mikveh was a little deeper for whatever reason, and I think that Rebbe was saying that he didn't want to use that one anymore because it was harder. So they didn't give him that one yet. Other times,
the way it worked is that not all the mikvahs had water in it every time.
They had, but they switched. This is a new mikvah that they just finished construction, and finally they had the rainwater, and finally everything was fine. So the first one to use it, my mother wanted that the Rebbe should use it first. It was a big schus, like the ladies to go into the mikvah that the Rebbe used afterwards at night. So they wanted the Rebbe to inaugurate it, and the Rebbe used it, but then the Rebbe sort of asked not to use it again. One time, my mother got a message that the clocks weren't updated. There was daylight savings, or the clock was broken, and the Rebbe could say that the clocks were not good. So the Rebbe gave a message: the clock should be done. I remember once my mother, I don't know why, but my mother gave me and told me that Rebbe left his gartel, his undershirt gartel, not the regular gartel, but the undershirt, the tzitzis gartel. And I had it. I remember holding it, and it was like a 3/4 inch, and it was full of knots, terrible knots, like knotty, And I had a big dilemma: should I buy a new one and return it, or should I return this? What's the maybe they never left it, they never doesn't want it anymore. And it was a big nisayon, but I went and I brought it back to Rabbi Klein, and I said, did I ever left this? I mean, so I didn't keep it. Mm-hmm. My nephew, who was involved with one of the founders of the Herr, mm-hmm. Rabbi Levertov. So he was born from a bracha from the Rebbe, and he was born in Tafshin Erev Hashanah Tafshin Tes Erev Hashanah Tafshin Nun, with the 200 years of the Tzemach Tzedek.
He always pride himself that he's from the Mems.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was a big miracle. It was a Rebbe's bracha, and my father opened the door.
See, they didn't have for a few years.
Didn't have children for a few years. It's a pasha b'fnei. It's a story b'fnei atzma. You should ask him about it. And they had a bracha, and he was born. And my father went to open the mikveh, and my father told the Rebbe that mein Sohn hat gehabt, hat a Kind, hat a Sohn. So the Rebbe said, this is doch 200 Jahre from Tzemach Tzedek. And then I gave him a bunch of brachas. My father was too overwhelmed to remember the details of the brachas, but I gave him a lot of brachas then. And one time the Rebbe went to the mikveh and came and he noticed that there was like a lot of garbage for construction, or somehow they didn't pick up the garbage, and the Rebbe was very bothered by it, and he spoke about it by the Fabringen, why there was garbage by the mikveh. At one point, there was a display that they made. Mrs. Deveri Halberstam was involved in Chabad, and they made a whole turning display of mikveh, about the old mikvahs, about marriage, different little dolls and so on, and they set it up for the and they wanted to show it to the Rebbe, and Mrs. Halberstam was there.
It was a display that was like going to be housed in the mikveh?
I think it was meant to travel, like to go around. Mm-hmm. It had like a turntable, like a turning thing. It must have been like 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide. I believe they showed it in different areas. They plugged it in, and it was a very nice handmade water. And so she came there, and when the Rebbe came, she explained what it was, and it showed it. And I think the Rebbe, it was going a little too fast. The Rebbe stopped it with his hand to make it slow it down. And then the Rebbe saw the scene, which had a chuppah. So there was a photographer, and there was a chatan kal. The Rebbe asked, "Where's the Rav? Where's the Rav?" And there was a few other comments that the Rebbe made about that, but the Rebbe was very happy to see the whole display over there. So that was a very, very, very special time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing with that. That's very interesting. Not often spoken about topic. So let me ask you.
Wait, one, like I remember a story. I don't know why I was getting something. I had to get something from my mother. I came to get something and whatever, and all of a sudden, I see that I was coming. So I ran upstairs. There was a second floor. It was empty, and I stood in one place. I didn't want to make any noise. I stood in one place, and like for 30 minutes, like holding my breath, just to be there. Oh, and then I had an amazing story with a story with me.
1 second. I think I know the story, but I want to talk about you.
Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, put a placeholder on that because I think it's part of your story. So you said you were born in Tafshan Lamed.
Tafshan Lamed. I'm from the 60s.
1969. There's something from the Rebbe when you were born, no?
So I was born Yutas Kislev, and my mother went to the hospital, which is now Besivka, Campus Chamish on Lefferts Avenue. Everybody was born there, and it was Shabbos morning. I was born at 8 o'clock, and then so my father sent my brother to go tell the Rebbe when the Rebbe came from his house that his mother had a baby.
I think there was some type of seder that people would do that.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's what I understand.
And if you had a baby on Shabbos, you would go
and tell the Rebbe
in the
morning. Yes, that was common. That was a thing. So my brother went, but he didn't want to tell the Rebbe. So he asked my grandfather, my mother's father, to tell the Rebbe. And
your mother's father lived in Crown Heights?
He did not live in Crown Heights. He lived in the Bronx and then in Borough Park. So I guess he came for Yutas Kislev, maybe. For some reason he was there, and he told the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "Oh, Yutas Kislev," and the Rebbe said, "Oh, and the bris was ein Shabbos Chanukah." So I knew that my father said he knew that this bris is going to be bismanai because the Rebbe said it's going to bris was ein Shabbos Chanukah. Mm-hmm. So that was. So growing up in Crown Heights, it was an incredible time, of course, to be by the Rebbe. The tzir, the experience that you remember is there weren't that many kids, and it came from the people who were living there. The Chassidim came from all these people from all the tzaddis that they had in Eastern Europe, whether it was Russia or they were survivors, and the teachers weren't we still wasn't in the mode of teaching with. Not all the teachers were the most loving people. Let's put it this way. So we gechapt, like we were troublemakers, so we got what we deserved. But it was amazing. Like the Rebbe sort of was the kind one. Like the Rebbe spoke, and the Rebbe encouraged the kids, and was involved in our lives. It like uplifted everything. Like it covered over. It overcame everything, all the challenges. Like I said, living in Crown Heights was challenging. I mean, I think the Rebbe kept us in boot camp, if you will. I mean, because anywhere outside of Crown Heights was like going to be better. It was difficult. I mean, you wake up with nightmares. We had people in our house. There was muggings and everything. People were killed. I mean, a bacher was shot, killed, making a phone call. It has an effect on the kids. You can't walk in the streets easily. You're afraid every time you see somebody. So, but the Rebbe encouraged and inspired and just uplifted everybody. It was a Machane, he came to Fabringen, and especially when it came to the mems, when it was Tzivos Hashem, and the Rebbe Pashut gave the kids, looked to the kids and gave them such power and spoke directly to them. Tafshim Mem, the Rebbe said that when she proved redden durch the Eltern, tried speaking to the Eltern. Now I'm going to speak directly to the kids. I was going to try directly. There's a sikha that Rebbe says that I'm going to directly to the kids. Forget about the parents and speak directly to the kids. I mean, we went on with tankist, and my brother was a tankist. He drove one of those bread trucks, the Wonder Bread trucks. That was the tank, and I was part of it. I remember Tafshin Mem, Shnasa Shleishim with the tanks. It was the Rebbe really gave the kids amazing, uplifted the kids, especially in Tafshin Mem Aleph. I remember we were part of the choir for Simchas Torah Tafshin Mem Beis. There was by Kosher Bracha. There was a choir, and we waiting. It was Tzivos Hashem, and we had
it was a Tzivos Hashem choir.
Tzivos Hashem choir.
Wasn't
later
that
became
Silva Zemer? No.
First it was Tzivos Hashem. And then it was Silva Zemer, Avram Moshe Rosenberg, and it was amazing. That music, and we had a choir, and I think we were planning to be there just for 2 hours or something, and it ended up we were the whole Kosher Bracha. We stayed the whole Kosher Bracha. And at the end, the Rebbe turned and led the whole choir. I don't know, there's a picture, a video of it. The Rebbe says, "We want to Mashiach." There's a video of the Rebbe saying of doing it. It was standing the Kosher Bracha and singing in the choir. I'm curious to why they never did it again. The Rebbe, I mean, was for it.
It wasn't only Lubavitcher kids, right?
Right. So I remember Shlomi Dax was part of it, and Srili Williger, these big singers, and but mostly Lubavitcher Yisroel Torah kids were.
So you could have been a singer also.
Exactly, even that mamish. But yeah, that was really good, but B'chlal, the Rebbe mamish took care of the kids and gave us inspired with the Tzivos Hashem, did a lot for us kids.
You're saying something important. You're saying basically, the system, everyone likes talking about the system. The system might not have been the best, or people might not have had a good experience at all, but the Rebbe was the oasis that was higher than the system. That
uplifted everything, set the tone for the whole thing. It was so different when the Rebbe spoke about the Ava and the kids and the love that Rebbe spoke with the kids. Just how every yid and every kid and every is precious, and for sure we did this, and for sure you could do this, and the kids, and in school it was why weren't you here, and what were you there? It was a little different. I'm not saying it was the school, there were very good teachers and it's Chabad gelernt and everything, but still the whole concept of Asay Tev rather than Surmei or somewhat focusing on the possibilities and the goodness. It was a sort of a contrast. That was the place where the Rebbe, and in a way, sort of as a kid, it also bothered. Why does the Rebbe talk about so much about the goodness and the tzaddikim? What about not everybody's frum, not everybody's is doing all these good things. They were uplifted. It was unbelievable. And
there's a diary that in Yuman that a kid went over to the Rebbe and said that his Malamed
Just hitting him.
Hitting him. The Rebbe took it very seriously. The Rebbe said, which yeshiva is it? I think the Rebbe asked who's the Malam. And I heard that there's a backstory that Skidders ended up calling the school. I mean, I don't know who this kid was, but he felt like the Rebbe's the address.
There's no question. They used to go hang out a lot. Like I said, I lived in Lefferts Avenue, so it wasn't easy to go back and forth, especially as a kid. Once I was in 770, I couldn't come back. It wasn't simple because it was at night or Fabrengen or whatever it was. So we used to sort of park there and hang out, and that was the place to be. In 770, we could be. So I used to go sometimes for davening. My father would daven still in Lefferts Avenue Shul, but I wanted to be by the Rebbe, so I stood there. I was very fortunate. My father had a place by the Shvil, so I sat I sat with him a lot of time with all the skanim.
He sat.
I sat. He sat.
No, he sat on the table over there.
By the table, and I as a kid, I used to sit with him whenever he used to come in time. But for bringing, I would sit. I remember those days. And there's some videos of it as well. But it was precious. Precious.
Did he move to sit with the kids by the Rebbe's feet after Mamalov?
Once or twice I sat by the Rebbe's by the feet. Yes, once or twice I sat there. But whenever I wanted, I could just sit by my father. So I didn't have to do that one. But later on, Al-Tabachar, once I Tafshin and Beis, they had closed off the tables because the kids were commanding over there. And they closed off a table and they put a wall around it. So the kids stopped saying that. But Bachrim came on from underneath, under the bleachers came in. And one of the Bachrim was Mendel Feller, and he was out of town. So he gave me his place when Tafshin and Beis, and it was incredible, to be so close up. It was closed off, but a little bit we opened the board and to see from so close up, you can even see the crumbs on the Rebbe's situg. That was very precious.
And when the Rebbe was coming in and out by davening, you were up front, by the shvil, or you were with the crowd? How did it work?
Until my bar mitzvah, I was in the front. I remember. I have a memory of I think it's Tavshmem Gimel. I was ready. It was 2 months before my mitzvah, so I was basically wearing a hat. But it was last year I was able to stand with the kids in the front. I was all the way in the front with Yom Kippur Ben Ila. Together with, I remember, Ari Groner, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Shabbos. I have to check out the dates. But anyways, the Avinu Malkeinu before Ne'ilah, Avinu Malkeinu of Ne'ilah, was that I was making for a very long time. And I was able to hear Bechiyas, crying, the Rebbe crying. And not too many people were able to hear it because there was singing Avinu Malkeinu, but us two, a few kids that were sitting in the front were able to, I don't know if we were able to see the Rebbe, maybe the Rebbe was covered over the talus, but definitely I remember the Rebbe crying and crying. It was so he was standing all the way in the front, like mamash against the Mizrach Wand. Later on, it's a Bachar, also when the Rebbe was davening for the Amid in Tafshin Nun. I was in Tisha Tafshin Nun. I'm sorry. Tisha Tasham Tes. So I was stood also Mizrach all the way on the other side of the Aron Kodesh, and I was able to see the Rebbe from the front. In other words, I was able to see behind the Pareiches. I was able to see it, and then notice a couple of things I noticed as well.
What do you mean behind the Pareiches? You see in the gap
between the Pareiches and the Aron Kodesh? Yeah.
There's a gap.
There's a little gap. There was a few Bachim stood over there. But as a kid, so I was, how do we put this? I was an overachiever, so I didn't fit into any classes very well. So at a certain point, we skipped into.
You have the right terminology, I see.
Yeah, we were overachievers. So a few of us were skipped into a higher class from 5th to 6th grade, towards the end of the year, and then went to 7th grade. And I wasn't doing too well over there either. I was put back and up, back and forth. And the Payal, Rabbi Pekarsky of Mesivta tells me that Berel, I don't know if you are so talented that we don't have anything to offer you anymore. At that time, you recommended that I should not come back next year, basically. So I went to Lubavitch Yeshiva Ocean Parkway, and academically, I was learning; it was fine, but Banhaga was not great, and also it was sort of a wasted year as well. And towards the end of the year, my mother and father heard that there was a group of boys going to Israel, Teres Emes. And so they found out some friends are going to Teres Emes, so they asked Rabbi Pekarsky from Aloteda if he thinks it's a good idea that I should go to Israel. And he said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. It was 14 Sachakel. But then they asked the Anhala of Lubavitch Yeshiva, Rabbi Tenenbaum, if I should go, and he said no, he wouldn't give permission. So it was one day that Rebbe came to the mikveh, and my mother opened the door, the Rebbe went inside, and my mother left. And then the phone rang. So my mother went inside to answer the phone. People had questions and so on. So on the other side of the line was Rabbi Tenenbaum from Lubavitch Yeshiva. And she asked him, could I send my son? I think it's a good idea to send him to Yisroel. And he said no, because it's still in the middle of the year, and he's going to break apart the class if he leaves. So she said, okay, so when next year, will you let him come back? So he says, no, we're not letting him come back next year. So she said, if you go, no.
Oh, you're saying leave and you're not accepted for next year.
Right, I'm not accepted for next year, and I shouldn't go. So my mother was saying in music, Rabbi Tenenbaum, was willte für mich? Was auch tan? What should I do, Rabbi Tenenbaum? Lass ihn nicht gehen und wird nicht sick nehmen. You're not letting him go, and you're not bringing him back. If she was crying on the phone, like, what should I do? Anyway, she hung up, and then a few days, so they wrote this to the Rebbe that Aloteda says yeah, and Lubavitch Yeshiva says no. And I was under jurisdiction of the Lubavitch Yeshiva. The Rebbe answered, Ki yadua ka'atzas hanhalas Aloteda, which means the Rebbe said I should follow the lead of Aloteda, even though I was on the Lubavitch Yeshiva. Basically, I should go to Yisroel.
As is known that
as is known. As it is known, you have to follow the advice of the Anhala of Aloteda. The Rebbe would a lot of times answer, you have to ask your Anhala, of yeshiva. So that was as a bacher. But here there were two Anhalas, and the one that was under right then told me not to go. And actually, Basha didn't want me to go. And here, the Rebbe said I should follow the Anhala Aloteda. And then we got a call from Rabbi Tenenbaum's that telling my mother that I could go. So I don't know what transpired, but he called back and said he gives me permission to go. And I went to Yisroel.
You know that the Rebbe was in the mikveh when this conversation was happening.
Yeah, the Rebbe was in the mikveh when the conversation happening, and it's probably that Rebbe heard. My mother hung up and heard probably that she oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was speaking so loud that I must have heard my conversation. That was the end of it. I never heard anything else. But it's the Rabbi Tenenbaum said I could go. I had the most amazing year in Yisroel. We were 14-year-old. There was a whole group of us, and we had amazing mashpia.
What year is this?
Tafshin Memdalad Memhei. 84, 85. And Rabbi Chaim Shlomo Cohen, it's Rebbe Gavin, like he really dedicated himself to the Bachrim, and he gave us, and he really, really inspired. I have, at the same time, Chaim Shol Brook was there, and he was like a veker. He used to wake us up. And he showed me, I have it settled that he gave me a copy of a Ksav Yad from the Rebbe. In the back, he writes, he asked me to wake him up, 5:45, 6 o'clock. I should wake him up to Ektiv. I was immediately as a bacher. I'm waking up Chaim Shol Brook.
What do you mean he gave you Ksav Yad of the Rebbe?
Two things. He had a copy of a Ksav Yad. So he gave it to me, but he wanted to read it. He said, write it back of a Ksav Yad. So that's why I kept it, because I saved it. So I have this settled that he's telling me that I should wake up. Berel Levertov, is waking up the veker. So amazing year. And then it was coming towards Yud Aleph Nisan, Pesach, and I was going to go home for Pesach Tafshin Mei, and and they were making a geidel for the Bachram to go. Who's going to go for Yud Aleph Nissen? A geidel from all the yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael.
Who's the representative of Bachram?
Represent a geidel who's going to represent the Bachram for Yud Aleph Nissen Tafshem Hey, and someone came over to me and asked me, who was arranging it for that yeshiva Teres Emes in Yerushalayim, and he said, you should, buy a ticket. I'm like, I don't need a ticket. I'm going to New York anyway. He says, yeah, but I think this you could. It's I said, like, what am I going to do if I win? If I win it, he says, yeah, you'll get money. Okay, you convinced me last minute, and I bought a ticket, and I won from the whole Eretz Yisrael. I won. I was a Zeicha B'Geidel. Okay, so he came to me. Said, "Nam Zeicha B'Geidel." So you should know you have a bigger chayas. You represent all the Bachrim, which means that you have to be by every single davening. And every single Fabrengen Kamuvan. And when you come back, you'll have to give Chazara and share with all the Bachim. You'll travel around Eretz Yisrael. I was 15 years old. So because of that, I probably because of that, probably maybe even without that, but because of that, I was made sure I was there for every Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv. Shachas was then Kriya. So I was there by Kriya. I was in Chassidus before Kriya. I was representing the Bachrim of Eretz Yisrael to the Rebbe for Yud Aleph Nissen Tafshem Hey. Yud Aleph Nissen Tafshem Hey was then the first Siyum Rambam, and I remember that. And we learned there was a new Hadron that came out, and I sat down with Yaska Greenberg. He was teaching me. He taught me the Hadron, and it was an amazing time to be Yud Aleph as a representative of the Bachrim. At that time, I was supposed to get a bottle from the Rebbe by Keshe Bracha as a Zeicha B'Geidel. But I came over to the Rebbe and I said, quietly, I said, Zeicha B'Geidel. Bachrim didn't speak to the Rebbe. And so I said it very quietly. So the Rebbe said, L'chaim L'vracha, and I moved on. So later on, I got a bottle from Rabbi Groner. He gave me a bottle for the Bachrim from the Rebbe's, from the collection of the bottles. Like, I went back to Yisroel and I traveled around and it gave a chazara v'chulu. It was really...
It's very special because, you could have just came home for Pesach. Obviously, it would be by the Rebbe, but you're coming home, and then because of this whole experience, it was like, I came to be by the Rebbe. It's also like the idea some people growing up in Crown Heights could, quote unquote, take it for granted. And here it's like, you're coming from Eretz Yisrael to the Rebbe as a Zeicha B'Geidel. It was probably a whole different experience for you.
It was amazing. It was a different experience. Now, the truth is, after being a whole year in Eretz Yisrael, even again, I can't imagine, but I'm saying it was a little different. The first time coming to the Rebbe was a big deal. The first time actually traveling to the Rebbe, and even going, we had Yechidus earlier, but going into So on top of that, definitely. I remember a tiny anecdote of so I say there was over the Shchedishis and Shabbos, I think. And Seder was over Sunday, business. I had a ticket to go on Thursday, so I asked the Hall if I could go a little earlier. So he told me yes, but you have a tonight. Before I go, I have to chazer Masechta Beitza B'Alpeh. I did it. Yes, I did Masechta Beitza. Like, he could push me to do it for the 3 days that I went early. And rather than I came early. My Zayda passed away Matzah Shabbos business, and so it was because of that was by the Levaya. But I'm just being mitzayir how this mashpia pushed us and got us to do things like, the Chazam Masechta Beitza B'Alpeh to come 2 days early to Crown Heights, New York.
Right.
Good time. So, yeah.
So what? I'm just the chronological history over here. So you were in Teres Emes, and then what?
So Tafshem Mem Hey, and then things fell apart over there, and a lot of guys left from Teres Emes, and that was a whole group of. It was Shlomo Bistritsky, Levi Shemtev, David Munshine, Asher Farkash, Mordechai Farkash, Sleiman, a lot of Grace Chassidim. We're all part of that. They all left. They went to Montreal because to follow this mashpia. I went back to Karhait, Salotera, life was not the same. It was different. But I had a certain appreciation more about of Chassidus and Rebbe and so on after that whole experience in Yisroel.
So you thought this is like Mem Vav, Mem Zayin.
Vav, Mem Zayin, Mem Ches, and then at the end of Mem Tes, I went back to as a shliach to Teres Emes.
Wow. Okay. So I want to go back. Let me go back to your mother for a second. I guess that we're holding Mem Ches now.
That's
so,
it.
And it was just Chaf B'Shvat. I understand your mother was also part of the Chevre Kadisha.
Yes, so she was part of the Chevre Kadisha, and we found out about Chaf B'Shvat 1:30 the night before. And I think the Bachman found out from my brother, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law from Texas. We got a call that the Rebbe passed away, and they have to go to the hospital with her to get her. So my uncle drove my aunt Cooperman. His name is Cooper. The Coopermans, and my mother and some other women, and they went to take the Rebbetzin. And when they left the hospital and went to the Rebbe's house, before they left, their car broke down, so they couldn't make it. So when the Chevre Kadisha came to the Rebbe's house, they weren't there. But my father did go there. He came from the house. He went there to the Rebbe's house. I always regretted. I told my father, if anything's happening, if you're going anywhere, wake me up. And I always regretted not staying up that night. I didn't do it. I went to sleep, and then for the next day, it was about Levaya.
Right, and then there were people that were outside the whole night.
People that outside. That was outside. It was a moyimdik time, a very moyimdik. That was really, really, of course, distressed and very, very difficult time to see. But the Aron came to the house, and so on. But, okay. So she was involved also with the whole Chevre Kadisha there. She did it.
So I want to ask you about you have another son. Yeah, go ahead.
My mother, she was very. She had many chiddusin, especially as a girl. She was Beis Yaakov, and the Rebbe. She helped bring young people to Crown Heights, the Fabringans, and the Rebbe gave her like a specific advice about dating. At one point, she was dating somebody, and she says that it's not really. She doesn't feel like a connection. So the Rebbe said, "What? He's not playing ball." She never understood what it means, not playing ball. She didn't know if the Rebbe meant like he's not like involved or like he doesn't play ball. She's never understood what it meant, but the Rebbe used the term, "What? He's not playing ball." The Rebbe advised her to, while she was dating him, to put him on pause and date my father, and afterwards advised her to marry my father. So it made in the Kiruvim in that whole sense of dating and so on early on. This is in the Yuds. Yuds. So Rebbe took care of people.
Yeah, I'm saying those times was especially people that like your mother that comes from a different background, and then the Rebbe Mamish took care of the people.
She has a story with her mother that her mother was having issues with her son. Whatever, it was a bit of he was a little wild. So she took on a tinus. She used to fast like Monday and Thursday. So she came to Yechidus, and she told it to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, "You don't have to fast. Better do a tinus dibber. Do a tinus dibber, nicht fasten." So Monday and Thursday, she would be more careful about the tinus dibber. So
tinus dibber doesn't mean not to talk; it means to be more mindful.
Right, be more mindful of what you say. Be careful what you say. Not don't speak anything. Correct. Be careful, mindful. Think about. So they had a joke that when they want to say Lashon Hara, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. You could say in their house they would say Tuesday. They would say because Monday and Thursday they weren't allowed to say any Lashon Hara because
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you about. I know that besides your learning in yeshiva, you also got involved in a few interesting things, even as a bacher, that involved the Askonus of Lubavitch. I think so. When you were in Eretz Yisrael, I think wasn't the first Hanukkah live. You were there Tafshin Nun?
Yes, we were at Tafshin Nun. So we were at Tafshin Nun. It was a nice group of us. Avraham Sternberg, Mendel Azimov, Mendel Feldman, Zalman Zirkin, Zalman Volovik, Yosef Vogel. Okay, a whole group of shluchim. And we found out that Yosef Vogel was, speaking to his father. There's going to be a Hanukkah live, and it's going to be in London. And we were shocked that it's not going to be in Eretz Yisrael. So we started speaking to some Askanim, and they said, "It's maybe if you take it on, you could do it. Whatever. I don't exactly know why, but it was extremely expensive. The downlink, just to get the satellite downlink, was $25,000, and a huge sum in those days. So we're going to get $25,000 to have the downlink, but it was so important that how could you have a Hanukkah live without Eretz Yisrael? So at that time, Rabbi Yasel Gutnick was in Eretz Yisrael working on Shleimus Haaretz. It was Tafshin Nun.
That was after the whole Tegillah Masriach, that whole story, right?
It was before, because Tegillah Masriach was Nisan that I spoke about.
So he was there. Something else.
No. He was there. Maybe it was part. It was the same time. It was that time. Yes, I know it was before. Yes, it was right after. Yes, he was putting together the government. He was staying. He stayed in one of the hotels that didn't open up yet. He has a whole floor. He was there for months. The Rebbe didn't let him go. The Rebbe told him to stay there. So it was during that time. Yeah, it was that time. So they told us.
I'm saying I don't remember which month the whole story happened of Tegillah Masriach, but I know that after the government was toppled because of the Rebbe said that he's not for Perez, and then the two Chavrei Knesset were hiding, for the vote, Mizrahi and what's his name, Verdiger. So afterwards, I think the Rebbe sent Yasel Gutnick to Eretz Yisrael because now you need to build. Shamir needs to build a coalition, so he was involved.
Okay, so it was right after. Correct.
I don't remember the dates,
you're right.
But yeah.
You're right. So we were bachrim and we were involved. Like it was a exciting time. And I remember on that note speaking to Lubavitchers in Yerushalayim, and they're explaining to me why it would make sense for Chabad to be involved and make a coalition with Peres. It was mind-boggling. It was like the regular Chassidim were talking about that whole process, and that was a normal thing for them. They weren't. It was shocking. Any case, so they told us, you know what? Why don't you go to visit with Yasel Gutnick and see if maybe he'll sponsor it. So Yosef Vogel, myself, we went out to his hotel. Kasriel Shemtev was there. He was helping him.
Yeah, I was going to say that I only know about what I just said because I heard it from Kasriel Shemtev. Yeah.
Spent a lot of time, worked hand in hand with him, spent a lot of time, and Yasel Gutnick said, okay, he'll sponsor it. So we got the main thing covered. And we started working to try to get this going. To set it up, we had to get permission for the Kaisel. And never was there a video at the Kaisel. Never was a satellite projection of a video. Now, obviously, we're not going to project it on the Kaisel itself, but even to have a video at the Kaisel was unheard of. And we went to the Rabbi Kaisel. Askana went to the Rabbi Kaisel, the Rabbi Getz, and he was very close to Chabad, and he said, sure, you could do it. And then they started harassing him, and they wanted him to stop it. And at that time, so we went around the whole Meir Sharim and the whole Yerushalayim with bullhorns, we rented cars, and we everybody, Kulana Lakoto Lamaravi. It was a whole campaign to get everybody to the Kaisel. The buses that were going, they went straight, like they filled up and they straight. That day it was packed. We got the whole Kaisel packed. And this rabbi, that day, had to push it hide because they wanted to stop the whole thing. They wanted to pull the plug, that there should not be a Chas v'Shalom video at the Kaisel. And, but
so he's hiding, so he's not available.
Not available. He couldn't stop. They couldn't stop him. He was hiding.
So hiding in Tafshanun in Eretz Yisrael was the theme.
It was a theme.
Yeah.
So we had it. It was amazing. I mean, for the first time, Begashmis, the Rebbe saw the Kaisel live, and the people in Eretz Yisrael saw the Rebbe live for the first time. I mean, it was a historic. It was amazing. All the Yerushalmi went. Everybody came to see the Lubavitcher Rebbe live, and to have a schus that the Rebbe Pashat saw live the Kaisel was amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, the whole phenomenon of Hanukkah live, that people are seeing the Rebbe live and the Rebbe seeing them, is an amazing feat. But then that you were able to make it happen in Eretz Yisrael, that's very special.
Unbelievable. From what I understand, there was at that point there were 4 satellites around the world. The whole thing was 4 satellites, 4 international satellites, and all 4 were hooked up for this Hanukkah live. Derech Agav, you watch the video, it's very interesting, of Hanukkah live. I just recently watched it, and at the end of the Sikha, the Rebbe speaks about giving Hanukkah geld, and you see Rebbe Grona goes over to the Rebbe and wants to know the Seder, how it's going to be, because they don't want to give dimes to the kids and dollars to the adults. And he asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe is going to give it Alain, if the Rebbe is going to give it himself or to the Tankisten. And the Rebbe says, Alain is better. Alain is better. I mean, alone, to do it himself is a lot better than to give it to Tankisten. And then the Rebbe's like, what's the shayla? Like, it's an amazing Katsir, the way the Rebbe is committing to give every single kid in that place, thousands of kids, 4 dimes himself. They were not prepared for it. They were doing it in the Rebbe's hand. It's an incredible video. But the Lashon, Alain is better.
Yeah.
Better Alain. Better Alain. And I have to say, when I went there to sell the first time after this, I can't not mention the amazing Greenberg family who took me in when I was when we were shpach already. My brother was already married to a Greenberg, and they really opened their home. So when I had free Shabbosim, or Rebbe Zusha Greenberg picked me up in the airport, and kind of had a beautiful big family, and they took me in like one of their own, and it was very, very moving to have that special place. So I have a special place in the heart for them.
Okay.
So subsequently, when I came back then Reb Chaim Greenberg was involved with Machane Yisrael Development Fund. He got involved because Rabbi Berel Levertov got his son Gedalia to get him to be involved, and Gedalia got Reb Chaim Greenberg. Chaim Greenberg needed someone to do something.
They're also brother-in-laws.
They're also brother-in-laws, and he needed someone to do something in English. So he knew me, so he asked me if I could help him out. So I started getting involved.
Just describe a little bit what Machane Yisrael Development Fund is.
Okay.
One of the integral components of being a chassid are the Chassidish Yamim Tovim and Yom Pagra. Whether it's Hey Tevis, Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Nisan, or Gimel Tammuz. These days give us an opportunity to connect with our Rabbeim, to connect with each other, and be better chassidim. What is the story behind each of these days? How did the Rebbe commemorate and celebrate these days? And most importantly, what are the lessons, the takeaways, and the action items Hamaisa Hua Ikr needed for each of these days? All of this and much, much more are answered in the new set recently published by Der Herr. Our Days is a journey through the Chabad calendar in story, meaning, and practice. With over 700 beautiful, glossy pages with elevated content, beautiful, beautiful photographs, you, your family, and friends will enjoy and live with each Chassidish Yom Tov. This book is a must for every Lubavitcher home, for every shul, for every school. It is a perfect gift item. This will not collect dust. It will be used day after day, month after month, year after year. You can have the set. Go to derher.org/our days. Order your set today and start living with the Chassidish Yom Tov.
So, in the early years, I believe, in the early years, the Rashag would bring some, the Frierdiker Rebbe would meet with some Balabatim between Rosh and Kippur, and then the Rashag would bring them to the Rebbe. And this concept of bringing donors and Gevirim to have a Yechidus with the Rebbe is connected to that idea, I believe. But this is going back much, much later in the Tafshin Vav Zayin, when a group of Shluchim brought Balabatim to 770 between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and also right before Yud Aleph Nisan, twice a year. And surprisingly, the Rebbe set a sikha for them. The first time they weren't even planning to, and they started a fund, Machane Yisroel Development Fund, to help Shluchim develop and to raise bigger money from wealthy donors to give to the general kuppah, to give Machane Yisroel, and from there to the Shluchim. So at some point, there was other people running it, and then they left, and then Gedalia Shem Tov was looking for somebody to run it. He asked his brother Chaim Greenberg. Chaim Greenberg started. He was very organized and very well suited for this, but he didn't know English, so he needed somebody to help him. So he asked me to get involved, and it entailed mostly for the two events that took place, two Yechidusin. Usually it was like Zayin Tishrei, and the other one was like Chaf Vav Adar, twice a year. That first it was for a higher amount. Then it was like $100,000 over 5 years was the amount they had to contribute to. And there was a whole vat. There was Rabbi Herson, Rabbi Berel Shem Tov, Rabbi Simcha Zirkin, like I said, Rabbi Shem Tov, and a few other shluchim.
We wrote quite a number of years ago. We wrote a very nice article on it. I believe in that article there's the list of the vat. Yeah.
So I started helping out around the events, around the Yechidus, and then later, slowly, I was getting more and more involved until Chaim Greenberg was getting married, and he asked the Rebbe if he should stay on and do this and continue back in Israel or go to Yisroel. And the Rebbe told him right away to go to Kadima to Yisroel, like out. And he went to Yechidus, and that's when he told me, Berel, you're taking over. So I was still a bacher then, and I was like, how can I run this important place? So to be working, of course, with Rabbi Krinsky was there and Rabbi Kotlarski, but throughout the year, people would make donations, and they would have to get receipts, and they have to be recorded, and other shluchim would wanted to sign up people, and it was a whole office. And then after the Yechidus, it means sending him letters from the Rebbe and giving them the pictures. People would order pictures when they were at Yechidus and so on. So there was a little office in 788, room 206, and we had our little office there. And at a certain point later, after Chav Zayin, the Shalom Cement also got involved. But for like 8 months, so I was responsible as a bacher, and so I got to be by the Yechidus as well. At that time, the Yechidus were in 770 downstairs, and we cleared out the whole 770, set up some mechitzas around, made it look a little more presentable for the balabatim, interact with the balabatim, interact with the shluchim, and so on. So, also very amazing privilege to be part of it. I remember one year. The last year where the Rebbe came to the Yechidus was Tishrei Tafshinun Beis. And they asked the Rebbe when to do it. And the Rebbe said to do it Sunday. I believe it was Zion, but Sunday between Rosh and Kippur. On Sunday, the Rebbe was giving dollars, and all the guests were there. So it's going to be definitely a long dollars at that time. And they panicked. They wanted to change it because why should the Rebbe have to do dollars and then Yechidus Machane Yisroel? But the Rebbe wanted to specifically that date. So they decided that they're going to ask only the top donors, like make a small group, not a full group, only the top donors. And they asked Rabbi Krinsky to ask the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, B'Shem Eifen, they should do it. Everybody was there. Everybody should be there. And that was it was large, it was big, it was growing. Baruch Hashem, there was more people getting involved and more balabatim. And
because the donors would also have like a yechidus, like a mini yechidus with the Rebbe.
Right. So that was the point. They would have the opportunity to share. It was a mamash yechidus, a few minutes to share to share with the Rebbe, to talk. So at first it was upstairs in 770, and they would just walk over without no order, or just speak a few minutes to the Rebbe. And it made it Gatsir where the Rebbe's like putting all the envelopes in his pocket, and his pocket's being big. It's like it wasn't really coordinated well in that sense. It was supposed to be like a quick yechidus. But then when it came downstairs, and especially when Chaim Grimmer got involved, it was very, very organized. We made a step up, a higher step, and the Rebbe's table, and organize a special way of going. And we even,
by the way, in this month, when did he get involved? Tafshin Nun.
Yeah, Tafshin Memtas, Tafshin Nun. I think it was Memtas even.
It's like if you look in the upcoming Deher magazine, in the section Rebbe to Rebbe, there's a whole slide of pictures from Machane Yisroel, and you already see how it's developed, and it's a nice event at that point already.
It was, yeah. He did a lot, and at that time, I remember we even scheduled when people should go, and gave them like a sense of when they're going to go. And I remember, and it was hard for the Rebbe. I mean, it's like the whole day of dollars, especially that one, Tafshin and Dal Beis. Remember, it was Tafshin and Beis. I'm sorry, it was a whole day of dollars, and then the Rebbe came down. The Rebbe left the Yechidus at 1 a.m. And I don't think there was even a break between dollars and Yechidus. And the Rebbe spoke a sicha. Spoke a sicha, and then the Balabatim went together to then. And the Rebbe said a sicha for the shluchim, and the shluchim. Then the Rebbe gave dollars to everybody, all the shluchim and anybody who was there. I never felt comfortable taking a dollar as a bacher there, because I didn't really feel that I belonged there. It was a bacher, asking whatever, what are you doing over there? So I never took a dollar or at Machane Yisroel Machlal. I remember once there was two Balabatim wanted to sign up. It was probably Tafshin and Beis, and I told Rabbi Krinsky to tell the Rebbe that these two Balabatim want to sign up. So they were friends of Ami Peikovsky. So they told us. So Rabbi Krinsky was always out. So I sent him a fax, from my fax machine to his fax machine. And it said that these people are writing to asking for a bracha. And I signed my name Berel. So he shows me the fax afterwards that the Rebbe answered on the fax. V'gadol haschus, and something else. V'gadol haschus and something else. 3 words. And I was shocked. I was like, you gave the Rebbe my paper with my Berel? Like, I meant you to tell them, what do you, I'm not supposed to be giving the Rebbe like papers like that. But anyway, that's what he did anyways.
That's what happened.
So I was a little more careful then. But again, I wasn't working officially. I was a bacher, and I had a kita, an office in 770, and I would learn and take a few minutes, and then work over there. I was still in the yeshiva, I was doing smicha, whatever it was. I remember, after Tkiyas, So you're uisgemuchet and you're all sweaty and all thing. And I was able to go upstairs to my office and change and come back down to 770 mitten davening.
Those are the
So
perks.
the perks of the extras of working there. I remember, again, I think it was Tafshin Nun Beis, or maybe earlier. And after the Rebbe, after the Yechidus, the Rebbe was sent out letters to everybody, all the Balabatim, and thanking them for coming, and whatever it was. And
Yeah, we have some of them are around. I've seen them.
Right.
It's like
So
on behalf of Machane Yisrael Development Fund, Lubavitch headquarters. That there was a whole interesting lashon in the letters.
it was on the Machane Yisrael stationery.
Yeah.
Was it on the stationery?
I don't remember that.
No. I'm sorry. Was it Rebbe stationery? No, it was Rebbe stationery.
They're around, so last some.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, but I was into computer, so I was able to make what's called a mail merge. I know today's like a few clicks. In those days, it was before Windows. In 1991.
MS DOS.
MS DOS. So I was able to do. I knew how to do.
You know how to use it. You know how to use MS DOS.
I know how to use MS DOS. Exactly.
I would have to have someone else load the game for me. I didn't know how to do it.
And everything. So I would have like one of the first computers in Chabad. I had a T1 line to Chabad.org. I helped them out, so I was involved with those with the computers and so on. I gave Pinto his job, the famous Pinto, who took over my
who ran the IT for 770.
Right, it was my job. I gave it over to him.
So you were the first IT.
I was, yeah. I guess I made the first network between two rooms. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was mail merging, and it was very sensitive. I have to make sure I get it right because the Rebbe is signing these letters. This is not a joke. So he went once and I had a mistake. I had to make it over again and do it over again and printing. And it was a process. So the Balabatim were getting the letters, and there was one guy who came with someone else, with Joe Carey. I don't know if you know, the name is Joe Carey. Avram Shemtes, Avram Hecht's Balabas. Did the videos. The Rebbe tells him with the Yechidus that they danced around the video. He's a video producer, and the Rebbe tells him to dance around Moscow and Machane Live around the video. So he brought a friend of his. So we didn't make a letter for him because he's not a balabas.
He's not a donor.
He's not a donor. He made a donation, but he's not a donor. So we didn't make a letter. I prepared it and I gave it to Rabbi Krinsky. And he says, Rabbi Krinsky comes in and he says, Berel, the Rebbe was asking, where's the letter for so-and-so? I was like, oh my God.
You're saying the one time you made up a decision.
You're playing games. I mean, of course, he didn't deserve it. He wasn't a balabas. So I'm going to argue that I was asking, where's the letter for planning and planning? I'm like, okay, coming right up.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Another time there was somebody, Berkevov brought someone, a friend of Chabad from India. He's known. I think his name is Rupin Bansali. And Rabbi Berkevov, the famous Rabbi Berkevov, brought him. And we were very nervous to someone who wasn't Jewish. How was the Rebbe going to respond? Is the Rebbe going to be okay with it? And the Rebbe was very warm to him. It was very nice Yechidus, and he made his donation. And I remember on his letter, the Rebbe wrote on top a few lines about Sheva Mitzvah Zinayach. B'ksav Yad, in English. In English. I don't have it. That was my memory, and it's probably around. I mean, he probably has it, but the Rebbe specifically wrote something about Sheva Mitzvah Zinayach. So yes, I hung around there, and at one point in Yud Tafshin and Beis, they were filming. Jerry Levine was filming the Rebbe for Gem. So we heard
Jerry Levine is involved with Rabbi Shalom Ber Lipsker and the Aleph Institute, and he was the anchor Chanukah Live. So he
Jem hired him. Jem hired him to film the Rebbe,
to produce some type of film or something. I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know I don't know what the end result, but Hildel Krinsky hired him, and they gave him equipment, and they gave him money, and they gave him. He was going around, and he was, like you said, he was the anchor of the Chanukah Live. He
also went to Machane Yisroel, by the way.
Yes, he went to Machane Yisroel. That's correct.
There's a video of him telling the Rebbe that in honor of the Rebbe's 40th, the Nesias, he quit smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yes, he goes to Machane Yisroel. Rabbi Lipsker was very involved in Machane Yisroel. He brought a bunch of people. I just remember dealing with Rabbi Shalom Ber Lipsker. He was not major, but not many interactions. But I was a bachro, and he was very, very respectable, and he was like, even though he was far superior, a major shliach and so on. Anyway, so they were filming, and the Rebbe gave permission. And if you see the major, amazing footage from the Rebbe davening, and the Rebbe coming in, the Rebbe had the chalukas, and so on.
So it's also proper, very modern cameras. So I mean, those videos look like they were taken today. It was very, very high end equipment that they were using.
Betacam footage, yes. Betacam footage, and they were Yud Shvat. They wanted to go to the Oyel to film the Rebbe the Oyel. So after davening, but Yud Shvat, I was in the office, and they said they need someone to go with the camera crew. To go with them, Pasha, to go. So would you ask me if I want to go? I'm like, okay, I was never by the Oyel when the Rebbe was there. Although Yud Shvat and Erev Rosh Hashanah people were allowed, I never did it. I don't think it was. It's respectable. So, but here was enough. Here they needed someone to help, so I went to help. So I remember. So we set up. I had a cameraman. These goyim they don't know much about. So they're standing outside 770 waiting for the Rebbe to come out. And I remember, like in a little anecdote, I told them the Rebbe's secretaries are going to come out with the bags and put it into the car before. So they see this going on. They didn't recognize. Like they told me they were expecting a few women to come out. The secretary. So they were waiting for some like secretaries to come out. They didn't have secretaries.
Right.
Anyways, the Rebbe comes out and immediately sees
Lubavitch secretary is a different definition. Yeah.
Let's get us secretary.
Secretariat.
Excuse.
Yeah.
The Rebbe comes out and immediately sees them, and he goes straight to them and gives tzedakah, and he gives them coins. I, of course, stepped away, but the camera crew gets the thing. And then we went into our van and followed along. And the footage is available. It's incredible footage. It gave me such a different perspective of something like seeing the Rebbe going to the oil and the Chanas that I was making to the oil, and the quietness and at first I was bothered, like this traffic. Why is he not zooming and running and going fast? And then I'm thinking, like, the Rebbe's here and there's nowhere to rush to. This is a quiet time, and it's it's a difference. Going. So it was a very driving the whole alongside the Rebbe and in front and the back and going with was really, really powerful. And at the oil itself, I stayed outside, but the video is there. And then everybody clears out and leaves, and the Rebbe's there himself, and it was so eerie, like it's getting dark. And the Rebbe's himself at the oil, and we're standing over there behind some matzeves, ready to take the film of the Rebbe going to his mother. And it was wow. So the Rebbe walks down the pathway and stands. It's dark and there's a few lights, and the Rebbe stands right on the shvil to his mother, says something, capital Tillim or whatever it is. And then the Rebbe goes back to the car, and he stops by the Rebbe sitting over there, and it's the Rebbe bending down. I wasn't sure what it was. and the Rebbe goes and rips out some grass. You're supposed to rip out the grass before you leave a cemetery, okay, Beis Achim. Once, twice, and the third time the Rebbe holds it. But as the Rebbe gets up, the Rebbe loses his balance and catches himself on the wall of the Ohel. I noticed on the official film, it's missing that section. But I remember that I got so scared I was gonna never regains his balance and goes into the car. Right before he goes into the car, he throws in the last bit of grass. I mean, to me, it meant like ripping out grass is so important that even if it takes a lot of effort, and it's something important. We went back to 770. It's someone who, as Bacham, we didn't go much to the oil, so we didn't really know the directions to the oil because, you're Shvat maybe, you're not even, and we we didn't spend much time by the oil. So we didn't get back in time. So when we came back, we went up. It wasn't shy to go take the whole camera crew to the downstairs 770. We went upstairs to Rabbi Krinsky's office, and in Rabbi Krinsky's office there was a closed circuit TV, a TV monitor. Again,
downstairs.
Up downstairs, which there were a few people on the block who had the such thing as wireless and no such thing as internet. So you don't even can imagine what it means to have like.
Well, I just found out a few years ago. I was sitting talking to I think his name is Rabbi Zalman Wilhelm in Shliach in Vermont. He's a son of
Baruch.
No, son of Rabbi Yitzchak Wilhelm from the library.
Baruch's nephew. Yeah.
So he, my parents live on Eastern Parkway. They're back to back with the Kazins, the Yossi Kazins. So this Wilhelm tells me, oh, by the way, we also had a live circuit because Yossi Kazin worked in WLCC. And there was a wire that they wanted the
Across Brooklyn Avenue.
They took a wire from 770 through all the backyards, threw it across Brooklyn Avenue.
Wow!
It was running. So he says, if you would have known about it, your house could have also had it because it was running through your backyard.
Wow!
The technology. Then they just threw a wire over the street. It blended in with all the other telephone wires. Running through the backyards. Yeah, so Rabbi Krinsky had.
Right. So we're watching the Rebbe go to the Amid for Mincha, and the whole day the Rebbe's hunched over, but here the Rebbe walks straight up, very straight. And I remember Rabbi Krinsky saying to me, he says, "Berel, is this the same Rebbe we just saw?" When it came to Mincha, the Rebbe was very strong and. It was Pella, Mamash Pella.
No. And also, they also came Chav B'Shvat, this crew.
They came Chav B'Shvat, and also you see that.
Which is also interesting, because I was listening last night to the two Sichas, and there's a Sicha of Leil Chav B'Shvat and Matzai. It reminds me of what you're saying, because the Leil Chav B'Shvat, before the Rebbe went to Kuntris, the way the Rebbe is speaking, the Rebbe's tone is very quiet. And then the next night, the Rebbe says another sikha, and the Rebbe sounds totally different, very, very much louder, and it was what you're saying resonates. It's within 24 hours. This thing.
And when you watch the videos, the raw footage of the Kuntresim was the first night.
I think so. Yeah, Chav B'Shvat. Yeah.
You can't imagine the Rebbe is going to give out Kuntresim now. The Rebbe stands there and gives out thousands of Kuntresim, the pink Kuntresim. And it's superhuman. There's no touch. I mean, Begashmi is how's it possible? As if you look at it, the Rebbe was, it was challenging those days. It was very, very difficult. I mean, if you watched how much effort and time the Rebbe took to give you those Kuntresim, I remember one of the first Kuntresim that became regular was Vav Tishrei Tafshin Nun. So that year, I mentioned that time already, was Tafshin Mem Tes at Rosh Hashanah. The night before Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe gave out Kitzurim V'Ha'aros, a thick book. It was the first time, and it wasn't shrink wrapped because no one had the idea of doing a shrink wrap to just give it, and it was hard. There were at least, I think, 6,000. They said that the Rebbe gave out that time. Then comes Rosh Hashanah, 3 days of Rosh Hashanah, not 3 days. I'm sorry, Rosh Hashanah and Sem Gedalia. And Temedalya, of course, is dollars. And then I think there was already Lekach, already once. Al Kapanim, Vav Tishrei, the Rebbe wants to give out a kuntis. A kuntis is Shatamai Mesasin from Tzemach Tzedek, and a letter from Vav Tishrei, and Lekach, and $1. And I remember as Bachrim, they had it in yellow manila envelopes. But apparently the Rebbe told it them very late, and they had very little time to print it. And as the Rebbe is giving it out, we're packing it upstairs in the Weibishal, and even stapling some of the things. And we're putting. And the numbers, they were like 9,000 kontresim. And this is after Keshe Bracha. So this is Thursday night, the Rebbe is giving out 6,000 books. Matzah Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe is giving out Keshe Bracha. Then there's a Sicher Tzem Gedalya, the Rebbe is giving out $. Then the Rebbe is giving out, and the Rebbe still wants to give out more. And this is the whole Eilam, is a whole bunch of guests. And the Rebbe is giving out these manila envelopes. And it wasn't easy. It was like 9,000 of them. It's incredible. And then there was again Sunday of that Sunday, there was $, but there was lekach in the $. They never gave out $, and lekach at the same time. Thousands of lekach and $. And then there's a sikha almost every single night, Tafshanun, literally every single night. And then if you look at the thing, I noticed all of a sudden that there's a Chalukas Keshe Bracha, Chaf Tes Tishrei. Like, what's a Chaf Tes Tishrei? When is the Keshe Bracha? The Rebbe gave a Keshe Bracha on Shabbos, Bereshis. Shabbos Bereshis, which is a week after. So, not slowing down, but actually giving more and more and more. And so I have my thoughts and my feelings. Where are all these kontresim? What are people doing with these kontresim? Are we learning these kontresim? Are these obviously are very important kontresim because the Rebbe chose these to give out. So there were 4 Tanyas, 3 the Rebbe gave them himself, then 1 the Rebbe gave through the Koil Jungelite. Then there's so many kontresim. These should be like high on our bookshelf, and we should use it every single day. Either, as kids, we also got Sidurim in Shavuos Tafshel Ametes. I gave all the kids Sidurim. I still have mine. I use it every day. There's so many. There's Kiturim Aris is interesting stuff also, and Shafta Maim is an interesting Maimer too, and just so many contations that Rebbe gave us. So we have achrayus to like use it and give it to study it, pass it on to our children, but also learn it ourselves.
The Rebbe himself said a number of times before giving out a kuntus that he's giving out the kuntus to learn. That's the purpose of it.
When he gave out in Tafshim and Beis, he said he hopes that the Tanya, he hopes they're going to use it so much, you're going to have to give another one soon. And Taka gave out Tafshim Dal through the Koilel. And then in Tafshin, Yudshvat Tafshinun, the Rebbe gives out the turquoise, the green Tanyas. At that time already, they shrink wrapped it to make it a little easier. And then Yutas Kislev, less than a year later, the Rebbe gives out another one, which means the Rebbe expected that one should be so used and spent, we have to give another one. It begs. We have to, these are the contations that we have to use. Now, not all the Bachram took every kuntres. Of course, dollars, not everybody went every time, but also kuntres, not everybody took every kuntres. It was. You
didn't go every time?
I did not go every time. I was there, we stayed there, but we didn't take every time.
You're saying you didn't go because
it was very taxing on the Rebbe to give out these kontresim, and Bachrim felt, or Yudalite felt that we have to care about the Rebbe's gesund also.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I have from my father, and I have father of Shalom, my mother of Shalom, and my wife has them, and I use them every. Now is the Chapei Shvat, the pink kontresim.
Yeah.
I mean the Chapei
Shvat. Okay, so So you continued this work with Machane Yisroel and your work in the offices for a few years, right?
Yes, I was working Machane Yisroel, and then I was also did some haga of some svarim for my brother-in-law, Rabbi Levertov, the mitzvah I was at Marim. So I compared it to Guf Ksaviyad. It was also very amazing work to have the Guf Ksaviyad of the mitzvah Rebbe and read it and compare it as just a fun work, fun ideas to actually be able to read the Kisviyad. And then at that time, Zalman Shmutkin was working in the LNS, the Lubavitch News Service, and he got me involved there as well, helping out with some media, with some, when they had to go around to Crown Heights and or interact with them and had some interviews. He trained me a little bit to be a little bit involved with the media, and then he started helping out Bechlal in headquarters. And I have to say that Chav Zayin Adar and Gimel Tammuz was a bombshell for them. It was extremely, extremely difficult time. They felt it like direct hit because they had no idea what's going to be. No one knew what's supposed to happen, who's supposed to take control, what's supposed to be happening. And we basically felt the Lubavitch is collapsing. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that's a certain feeling that it was by Shluchim as well, but this is the office that took the Rebbe's hey to us, and they're working with the Rebbe, and all of a sudden they're on their own, and they have no idea, no clue. They're picking up bits and pieces, and no one, I can tell you from inside, no one had an idea how it's going to continue. The Rebbe, Kamuvan, the Rebbe did what he did, and the Rebbe continues doing what he's doing. But Begashmias, the people on the ground at working in the Chabad headquarters does not really have it together. For sure, did not have it together. It was the Rebbe did himself. We had no idea, like, what's supposed to happen. Like, we were supposed to. I remember even, like, going home from the hospital on Tufshin following the ambulance and Gimel Tammuz. So, like, we were like, what's supposed to happen? Like, what's there to do? So finally, Zalman Shmutkin put it in perspective. He calls me up. He tells me, like, there's going to be media who are going to be coming, and they're going to want to have a good perspective because there was some negative things happening over there, and they're going to want to focus on the things that are, on the negativity, and we have to make sure that they get a good understanding of what happened, of what Lubavitch is, and what the Rebbe was, that the Rebbe is, and so on. So I remember we were fielding calls I was in Rabbi Krinsky's office, and they called from Israel. So as Makoreh, Kama Nashim Shama, this is noch before the Levaya, and people what's going on and who's there? Like, I told him, like, what do you want? I mean, there's a lot, what do you want me to say? What's there to say? There's nothing to say. And then, we went to the Ayel. I was inside in Gimel Tammuz, and then after coming home, I was already married then. I was second to the last wedding from the Rebbe in 770. I was married Adar Chaf Adar Tafshin Nun Dalid. That was a Thursday night. Monday, the Rebbe went to the hospital. Eye and ear.
Before Chav Zayin Adar.
The second Chav Zayin Adar. Before the second Chav Zayin Adar. The second Chav Zayin Adar, I saw them transporting the Rebbe from one hospital to Beth Israel. So in the morning, like, finally went to sleep, and it was like there was, we stayed by the oil for a long time, and then came home, and then, like, there was, like, nothing, like, what's gonna happen? There's nothing, no reason to wake up. So then I got a call from Rabbi Yossi Friedman, and he told me that, he says, Berel, they're going to be opening the Rebbe's room for davening, and because everything is open, they need a few people to hold sit to make sure no one takes anything, no one walks off with anything. So he asked me if I could come and help out. So that's what got me out of bed, and we came, we opened it up, and then later we kept it open for we kept it open 24 hours for Shiva, and for other times they wanted to know who's going to take responsibility. Aguch wanted to know who's going to make sure. So it was Rabbi Elkanah Shmatkin and I. We said we'll take care of it, and that's why we kept it open. For there was, they learned and davened there for I think for the Shiva, and for other times. But it was extremely difficult. I mean, Klal Yisrael, but I'm telling you from the headquarters itself, no one had really a sense of what's going to be. Then came the Kinnis Shluchim, and also was like Shluchim, like, why should we come? What's to come for Kinnis? We had to make phone calls and beg Shluchim and tell them that the Babich is still a point to come and still be here and so on. And slowly it grew back, but it took some time, took some effort.
Oh. We're still figuring it out.
We have to allow the Rebbe to do it, because we're, just long. Caused by Mishtet nicht. Not going to stop the Rebbe. The Rebbe will continue doing, because no one really has it all figured out.
Right. So you're sitting in a beautiful Chabad house, which is your Chabad house, the Rebbe's Chabad house, that you're the shliach to make it happen, the Chabad of Santa Fe. So obviously you took it quite literal, that if to do the Rebbe's work. And I'm sure you see the Rebbe's hands in your shlichus as well today.
Some amazing. First of all, I want to, using the term Santa Fe, I just want to clarify something, because Kiyadua, the Rebbe was against using the word Santa, and clearly, and when I lived in a block was called S Mateo, I called it S Mateo. So why am I so easy using the Santa Fe? So I asked it of. So this is the point. Santa means holy. Santa Fe means holy faith. When you say Santa with a name of a person, Barbara, Diego, Chves, these are all saying that these people are holy. Santa Fe means holy faith, Amuna Kadesha. So the Rav said I'm okay using it Santa Fe, but still sometimes I write S Fe, just I'm not comfortable with it, but it's different than the other Santas. Just want to make a clarification. I'm not
okay.
Also, the way we say it over here is Santa, so we skip that. That's not Be'etzim. It was a whole long Hashgacha Pratis and a miracle that we came here. I wasn't planning. I had other ideas. I was almost going to stay in Crown Heights. I was working with Chabad headquarters, and I was doing. I felt major work. A lot, it got busier and busier. But Hashem was starting to grow, and more people were coming in, and I felt, I guess, I was going to do it. Then it went from a 1-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom apartment, and I invested a lot of money to making it over. I thought, I wasn't sure if I'm going to. And then I was on a trip in California, and then I got a call from Rabbi Mintz that there's an opening in something place called Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm like, what is that? The face. You're ready in California. Why don't you go out to see it? So I went to see it, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever. So Rabbi Chaim Shmulker is the head shliach in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, and he took us around. We looked around, and I'm like, okay, whatever. We were told there's like a bunch of kids, and there's a place for a school, and whatever. We had some seed money, and we got out. We came out here. We had no idea. It's a beautiful place. It's not your typical city. I wanted to go just like a regular city in New York, in the United States. It's not. It's called a city different. It's second oldest city in the whole country. It's beautiful architecture, beautiful scenery, and so on. But it's extremely challenging as far as Yiddishkeit goes. Extremely challenging. Very, very liberal, and people come here to run away from all the big cities and from all the Yiddishkeit. So we made Baruch Hashem made quite a bit of progress here, and had major miracles, and keep seeing major miracles. I know you had a write-up of one of this one, but this is like one of the main stories that I have was we were looking to build a Chabad house, renovate a Chabad house. We owned the Chabad house. We wanted to tear it down and build it. And we had a major donor who committed for us to do it, to give it quite a bit of money, but they had some tanoim. They had very specific tanoim, and they, for good intentions, that it should work out a certain way. And they wanted us to use specifically that place and this contractor, and we felt that it was tight. It wasn't really good for us. I was by the I went to the Ayel one time. It was a Shabbos Yud Shvat, and I really like this. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm pasha stuck. I'm tzadech, I have a nice pledge. Mtzacheni, it's coming with a lot of restrictions, and I don't know what to do. And I came home, and I remember my daughter was having her bas mitzvah, and I decided to give her something that I got from the Rebbe. And I took out my package, and out of the package, I had a stack of stuff. Fell out a zettel with a original ksav from the Rebbe, about 2 inches by 2 inches, a square, ripped, and it had a circle like a text bubble. If you want to, and it had 4 words.
Saying from who? From what?
So what happened? It was my collection, and I'm assuming it came to me from my father's Yerusha. Like I got that part. I don't remember getting it. We divided the things of my father. All of a sudden, my father collected things. He had letters that he got or stam stuff. He was a bacher mimush, So he had the stuff he got, and it's settled. Comes falling out, and it's a guf ksav from the Rebbe, original, not a copy, but original guf ksav from the Rebbe. It looked like from the early years, the handwriting, and it had 4 words on it. It had b'meretz, v'hispashtos, livli ches, with widespread energy without fear. Incredible, like just came out of it like of Shabbos. I'm like, this is a clear directive. We immediately moved out of the Chabad house. We immediately did the groundbreaking, and and then the donor was so inspired that they made their donation even without us getting to the point where we're ready to had the other money. And then at the end, we ended up ditching that whole program and buying a building in downtown Santa Fe, 3 stories, 16,000 square feet in the heart of Santa Fe, in the heart of the historic, and it's such a big Kiddush Hashem. It's like the biggest Jewish building. Baruch Hashem, we did very nice renovations. We opened a deli, which brings in tons of Yidden connection to people we never imagined. We brought another shliach down, my son-in-law and daughter, Rabbi Shmuel Itkin, doing amazing work with the people. And I'll give you a little story that happened just a few days ago. Someone made a donation at the end of the year. Someone a name I didn't recognize. So I called them up and I said, what is this? I did it in honor of this and this person, a doctor who's on your list of people who, your end of year campaign. So I asked him, are you Jewish? No, I'm not Jewish. So I said, you know what, let's have lunch. Let's talk. So he comes to lunch, and we have a long conversation. He tells me about this church and about how, and I tell him about how Chabad and how Judaism works and so on. Mamish, like from the beginning, it was a beautiful conversation. Amazing. He's into marketing. And I asked him, Shaila. Anyways, at the end, like we're ready to go. And so he says, like, I said the word bubby, and he says, a bubby means grandmother. Oh, because like I said, because my great grandmother was like a Ashkenazi Jew from France. I'm like, what did you just say? He says, yeah, I had some medical issues. I have to do some lineage, and my mother is so and so, her mother is so and so, and her mother is so and so. I'm like, you're Jewish? Like what? He didn't understand. He didn't know. We put on tefillin, we benched, we connected. This is all a mamash frische meise from the deli. This is alles besosa deli. So we at the Rebbe's hand, and major things that I wouldn't even imagine, and I'm still, like I can't imagine got the job, that kind of thing. So such miracles, and the Rebbe took little kids and little people. We grew up in Al Torah. We don't even know the ways of the world. We don't understand the culture or anything. But you keep learning the sichos and you keep learning the marim, and more importantly, you read the letters and letters and letters. And the Rebbe's guidance is unbelievable. It's clear. Now today, when the whole world is going crazy, there's you have to understand. We know we have the answer. We know that we're the address of saving the Yiddishkeit and saving the world and being strong and unbelievable. And if you notice, the Chabad house is I try to keep it very clean. That's my thing, and I associate it to a story with the Rebbe. So as a bacher once, I decided instead of being downstairs when the Rebbe came down for davening, I want to see how it is upstairs. I was never upstairs when the Rebbe came down for davening. So it's the middle of a weekday, so there's nobody's there, and I'm standing. Of course, I'm not standing in the main. The Rebbe's going to the elevator, but not standing in the room of the elevator. I'm standing a little, in the
hallway.
the hallway, and peeking in. And the Rebbe comes out of his room, looks down, and he points. There's something paper there. And Rabbi Groen gives a look at it, and he goes, like, in other words, it's not a shamus or whatever. But so Groen turns to me like, pick it up. So I have to go and pick up. It was a piece of paper. The Rebbe saw a piece of paper. The Rebbe stopped. It was almost gonna pick it up himself, but the Rebbe couldn't stand when there was papers on the floor. Not shamus, nothing to do with shamus. Just picking. A shul has to be clean. A shul, and I was very disturbed about it. So I spend today. I don't spend so much my time doing it myself, but I pay people to do it, and spend money to keeping, and it makes a difference. People walk in and like they're, like, wow, beautiful. Like I didn't imagine, I didn't know. Like, try.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much. Very, very geschmack, and the way it all sums up. Shakir God. I think we're good.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, and also my mother, Allah Shalom, Brocha Levertov, the hair. She has a big part in Chassidish of the hair. I know her house was an incubator of the early days of the hair. Many people spend time. My nephews and their friends spend time together. And maybe they even discuss things with her. So who knows? But she has a big source for that.
Rabbi Levertov is definitely a major force by the Bachar.
Yeah. Okay, so dedicate it to her.
Okay, Shakir, thank you so much.
Thank you.